Hey guys, welcome to the 30 Days of Plight Halloween special. So rather than doing a regular blog post, what I'm doing is this video post where I'm going to cover my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. Now just to throw out some disclaimers before we hop into this, this is by no means a top 5 greatest horror movies of all time. I don't think that I'm an authority on that type of thing, nor do I really think anyone's kind of an authority on that type of thing, but this is just going to be my personal top 5 list overall. So if you agree with it, that's cool. If you disagree with it, that's fine too. I'm sure you've got your own top 5 list. And honestly, I'd love to hear what they are. So if you want, feel free to post in the comments below. You can totally check out your movies. Second thing, anything that is on this list is not a film that I have covered previously in the 30 Days of Plight. The reason for this is I've already talked about movies. You don't need me to rehash any of that stuff and bring it up again. And if there's anything you missed, you can go back to the blog anyway. And read it. A good case in point is from this last cut, the film Baskin, which I fucking loved and would be on this list, but I just didn't feel the need to bring that all back up. So, third and final thing, with this list I tried to condense into strictly horror. I didn't go too deep into any subgenres where I'm doing anything like horror comedy or sci-fi horror, that kind of stuff. But the fact that it's Halloween, I'm like, let's just stick to straight up horror. A lot of these other films, too, I end up covering in my blog when I roll another film that fits into that subgenre. So I'll talk about stuff like Murder Party or John Dies at the End if anytime I get a horror comedy film. But you guys would know this, so. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into my top 5 list, and this is in no specific order. So number 1 is going to be Bride of Frankenstein. Now this is a Universal horror classic. It's a sequel to Frankenstein. It's one of those films that probably everybody knows, even if you haven't seen it. Now, the reason that this is on my list is because when I was a little kid, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies due to my overprotective grandparents. And my mom actually would record the Universal horror films onto VHS and then give them to me. And since these were much tamer than what was out at the time, like Child's Play and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, they were kind of okay with me watching these, and I'd watch them ad nauseum, tons and tons of times. And truthfully, I don't even know what the original appeal of Bride of Frankenstein was to me, because watching it now, it's super campy, but super fun at the same time, so I don't recall if that's like why I watched it then, or if there was something I really liked about it. But you at least get a little bit more info, and the characters get fleshed out a little bit better than in the original Frankenstein, I feel. So, plus as I've gotten older, I've read actual Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the variations from that are a little bit frustrating to me as far as the original film and the book. But that's what it is. So, moving on to number 2, it's going to be Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Now, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people really, really love the first film, and I think it's great, aside from the cheesy department store mannequin of Nancy's mom getting pulled through the window at the very end. And Dream Warriors 2 is known for being the equivalent of a gay softcore porn, which I've seen gay softcore porn, and yeah, kind of just Freddy Krueger in a gay softcore porn. But Dream Warriors is where they came back and they actually brought things back together and had a little bit better budget. So you've got a lot better special effects. You've got some fantastic makeup going on and sets. You've got some of the best kills in the entire run of Nightmare on Elm Street, where we've got the initial kid who dies being controlled like a marionette by the tendons in his arm being pulled out, and Freddy you see him over top of him and causing him to jump off the hospital. There's the TV murder where he kills a girl and ad-libbed the line, "Welcome to Prime Time, bitch." Which was not in the script. That was entirely Robert, and is probably one of the most iconic horror lines ever. Probably. I don't know. I'm making an assumption. But anyway, yeah. Fantastic budget in it. Has great music. They put together a really good soundtrack for it. The Dawkins theme song for this is great. I've over the last week, I've been playing it over the PA at work because you can get away with playing horror Halloween themed stuff around this time, and so I have. But truthfully, anything else of Dawkins kind of sucks. Sorry, I'm a Motley Crue fan, so Motley Crue, Dokken. Moving on to number 3, it's going to be Dawn of the Dead, and I'm talking the original Dawn of the Dead, not the Ving Rhames remake, which, don't get me wrong, I love the Ving Rhames remake too, but my biggest concern with that is that a lot of people were, really, really hate it because it was one of the first films to incorporate the fast-moving zombie, and that really broke away from what Romero's initial Night of the Living Dead shambling zombies were. So with that in mind, kind of just shifted over, but more so because of the fact that the original one is, I have personal attachments to it. I was born in Pittsburgh, PA. I spent most of my adult life there. I grew up just outside of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and if you've ever watched the original Dawn of the Dead, there's a section where zombies are just shambling through a field, and there's a helicopter shot, and the pilot and co-pilot are talking, and you hear the one say, "Oh, they're heading towards Johnstown." It's like, oh, those rednecks must be loving this. And it's just like, oh, George, you've been to Johnstown. You know. So, also, I remember being a little kid and having gone out to Monroeville Mall and seen that skating rink there, which doesn't exist. It hasn't existed in years, which is a disappointment. Plus, Pittsburgh in general really embraces that movie. We have Zombie Walk at the actual mall, usually every Halloween season, and we try to make it the world record largest one. I say we I'm still in Pittsburgh. I'm not, but miss it. So, moving on, number 4 is going to be Tokyo Gore Police. Now, this is going to be the one that I'm going to skate a little gray area with as far as the strict horror, primarily because this is more of horror action-y. But it's a Japanese horror film. It's under their own subsection of horror. I forget what the actual term is right now. I usually refer to them as ultra-violence or ultra-gore because of the pumped-up amount of blood. Think of it as kind of a trauma film done Japanese style with a much better budget and much better acting. Nothing against Trauma. I fucking love Trauma. But these films take it to a whole new level. The character and monster design in it are great. The special effects and the blood is just abundant. It's not called Tokyo Gore Police for nothing. But yeah, just give it a shot. If you like it, there's also other films like Machine Girl, which is probably a little bit more well-known than Tokyo Gore Police, and Frankenstein Girl versus Dracula Girl, which I think is the title of that. Which fall into the same genre, and all 3 are fucking great. I own all 3 of them, as well as a bunch of other sub-movies that kind of fall into that whole section. But it's just a lot of fun. It's a good splatterfest if you're up for it. So the 5th and final movie is going to be House of a Thousand Corpses. I know, truthfully, I really like The Devil's Rejects more than House of a Thousand Corpses, but The Devil's Rejects is kind of on that same level as Natural Born Killers, where it's not a horror movie. It's more of an action thriller type deal, whereas House of a Thousand Corpses, that's a straight-up horror film from start to finish. And I know a lot of people tend to not like Rob Zombie films as much, or at least not as much anymore. I still really like his stuff. I have both of those movies. I have Lords of Salem. I haven't had a chance to see, I think it's called 31 is his new one. But I plan to go see that as soon as I get a chance, or I'm able to buy a copy of it. I've seen his Halloween remakes. Cinematography-wise, I think they're fantastic. Story-wise, I'll just be honest about it. They're not the most amazing story-wise, but I don't dislike them either. But getting back to House of a Thousand Corpses, this is where you can see where Rob Zombie comes from, as far as the late night movies on TV and the grindhouse drive-in and that kind of stuff. He pulls it off perfectly. It's like an homage to his childhood, at least is how I'm looking at it. And the story's great too, because it has that bizarre Texas Chainsaw Massacre type feel going on throughout it. And then as you get to the end, the moment the last probably 5-10 minutes of that film is just such a what the fuck is any of this going on now? But it's all great. It's all frightening and done so well, like from sound editing to like the visuals. It's awesome. I love it. And I mean, you can't go wrong too with Sid Haig as Captain Spaulding, because holy fuck, is Captain Spaulding one of my favorite characters ever in a horror film. So, but that's my list. That is my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. So, if you like that, awesome. If you didn't, that's cool too. Like I said, if you got your own top 5 list, feel free to comment below if you're on YouTube. I believe you can comment if you're on the actual blog, which, if this is your first time with it, it's going to be www.30daysofplight.com. That's 30, not the word 30. We also have a Facebook, which is 30daysofplight.com. Same deal, 30 before it, Days of Plight. You can go on there. I do updates in between the blog stuff, as far as just kind of like what's going on or what I'm doing like horror related that's going on at the same time. So feel free to check that out. You can like us on there. You can get a hold of me on there too. So, and I'll put all the links below in the description, so that if you want to check anything out, feel free to. Also, shout out to Werewolf Ambulance, which is a horror podcast, which I was recently on. If you haven't checked that out yet, I believe it's episode 104, where we actually discussed one of my favorite horror comedies, Murder Party. Katie and Alan do a fantastic job, and you guys should really check them out too. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and you guys have a happy Halloween or blessed Samhain, depending on what you're celebrating. If you're celebrating the following holidays after it, have a blessed All Souls or Dios de los Muertos. But yeah, have a good night.